Hey everybody, Jochen Hayden here, and I'm back with another tutorial. I've been kind of dreading this and putting it off for a while because I'm going to tackle one of the more complicated interfaces that the game has. At least I think it does, and that's the aircraft user interface or graphical interface. Um, there's a lot going on here, so I'm going to do my best to explain all these buttons and what they are, on what they do, and all of these readouts and what they mean. I may miss something, so if you feel like there's a hole in the information that I'm giving you, please call it out. Ask the questions, either commenting on this video, or come over to my Discord and ask the question because I may miss something. There's so much to do here. All right, let's just start from the top left and work our way all the way through this thing. Okay, so starting at the top left, you have the name of the unit, right? Over here is the pilot's selection section. So there's two options you have for keeping this squadron stocked with pilots. You can do manual or you can do automatic. So if you click automatic, what it will do is it will automatically assign pilots from a given pool to keep this pilot count at an acceptable level. So when you have it on automatic and you have it on any, it will draw pilots of any skill level from the requested pool that you select here and fill this unit up with ready pilots up to the amount that it needs, which would be 16. Okay? Now, when you have more than 16, it won't do that. It will only fill it up to 16, or whatever the number is in this parenthesis here, which is the max size of the unit. So, if you click on, you can cycle through the type of experienced pilots that you want. So on any, you'll get a random amount of pilots assigned to a unit if it's low on pilots. Train 50 plus means it will go to the requested pool and grab pilots that have an experience level of 50 or more. 60, same thing. Sorry, 70. So, by the way, you'll notice something here. Do you see when it says, do you see the colors here? When it says green, when it's green, that means it has more than enough pilots to fill this thing out with. When it's yellow, it means it has some pilots of that experience level to draw from. And when it's red, it means it has 0 pilots with that skill level that it can put into this squadron. So the way I do it is I always go manual, and I manually assign my pilots because I don't like it doing it for me. This next button is called resize. In many cases, you'll see that this doesn't work. I'll give you an example. Let's look at a unit located here. Do you see how when you click on that, it says no size resize allowed? It means that it won't resize it. It will automatically resize to whatever it says here at that date. But there are some units, particularly the Japanese units that are based on aircraft carriers and or these like these aircraft cruisers, right? They will allow you to resize the size of the squadron. So clicking through this, no resize allows means it's not going to attempt to do it. This option allows you to manually select the size of the aircraft squadron you want it to become. And there's some other buttons that you have to click to do that. And that's kind of a topic for another discussion. You can resize to fit ship. Again, there's some other steps you have to take to make this work. If you have more questions on how to resize a unit, let me know and I'll do a separate video just on that because it's kind of complicated in itself. Attached to is the headquarters that a unit is assigned to. And it's not so much an issue for ship-based aircraft, but it can be an issue for land-based aircraft. So if we look at this G4M Betty here, this is attached to 23rd Air Flotilla. So there's two things that are important to note about the headquarters that a unit's assigned to. One, you have some units that are restricted and some that aren't. If it has an R or an S or an SR, that will limit where you can deploy these aircraft. Some headquarters are restricted to just one country, one area, one locale, and you can't move aircraft away from there if they're assigned to that headquarters. Now, if you see nothing here, that means that this unit can be moved anywhere on the map that you control the base. Now, the catch to this is you want to assign your squadrons to the air headquarters that you are nearby to. And the reason being is that there are bonuses that your aircraft get for coordinating attacks and staying together when you're sending them out on missions. If they're in the radius of an if they're in the radius of a air headquarters, right? If they're in the same general area as the headquarters they're assigned to, there's a bonus that extends out several hexes away from the actual hex that they're in. If they're not assigned to this headquarters, for example, you notice that the Bettys were assigned to the 23rd Flotilla, but they're actually in the same hex as the 22nd Flotilla. The radius at which that air headquarters can give that unit additional coordination bonuses is reduced. So as long as they're assigned to a non-restricted headquarters, they'll get bonuses from nearby air HQs as long as they're right next to them, but they can be further away if they're assigned to an air headquarters that's in the general vicinity. Again, this could be a little complicated. I can answer this question more specifically later on, but I want to keep going here because there's so much to discuss. All right, this will tell you what base they're at. This will tell you the airframe and the type that they are. Under here, the serviceable means this is the amount of aircraft that can be launched on this day total. So of 25 aircraft assigned right now or available right now, you have 25 that are serviceable and can fly. This number here on the left of the parentheses is how many aircraft are undergoing maintenance, and the other half is undergoing damage. In reserve, you can manually increase the amount of aircraft you have in reserve up to about 4, depending on the size of the squadron. So if you have an aircraft in reserve, you'll hover over this and you'll see where it says draw 1 reserve aircraft from the pool. We currently have 3 Bettys in our pool, and if we click that, it just brought over an aircraft from the pool and put it in our reserve pile. What is a reserve pile? These are aircraft that aren't going to fly at this time, but if you have any aircraft that are shot down, damaged, or go into maintenance, it will pull an aircraft out of the reserve and put it in your serviceable stack until your damaged or maintained aircraft are restored, and it will put it back in reserve. Over here on the right of this are like a historical record of aircraft losses. On the left of the parenthesis here is ops losses. On the right is write-offs. On the left here is air-to-air kills. On the right is aircraft lost to flak. On the bottom are aircraft that are killed on the ground, total. Over here for ready pilots, this tells you how many pilots you actually have that can fly missions right now. If you have a number in parentheses, that means that's the amount of pilots that will be available within 1 turn. Let me give you an example of what that will look like. So let's say we're going to go to reserve, and we want to pick a bomber pilot and assign our most experienced bomber pilot, right? We release the pilot to that group unit. See the parenthesis? That means within 1 turn, the pilot will be ready to go. And if you want to speed that up a little bit, you can click on pilots, click on delay, right click on the pilot and hit active. That delay goes away, and now we have 31 pilots. It's an extra step. You can just wait a turn and he will show up next turn or whatever. That's just a little trick. Average experience is the average experience of the pilots in the unit. This is their morale and their fatigue. These 3 numbers here can affect their performance in battle. The more experienced they are, the higher likelihood they are of hitting their target, staying alive, killing other stuff. Morale and a similar thing. The higher the morale, the more likely they are to execute the mission that they're given. If the morale gets low, they may not fly. Fatigue is the level of tiredness that as an average that the pilots have. So if you look here under fatigue, you see these numbers. This is how tired they are. I'll tell you right now, any fatigue number you see here in the 30s means you probably need to rest this unit for a turn and let it get down. Because if this fatigue number gets too high, they will not fly their mission. Over here, kills is how many kills this squadron has total. You'll see this more often in fighter units. On the right is a list of pilots that are killed, right? So on the right hand side of the slash is how many pilots have been killed during the entire history of this squadron. On the left, the number is how many were killed during the last turn. Wounded in action and missing in action are the same. So this squadron, since it's been in combat for how many months that's been, has had 5 killed pilots, 2 wounded, and 4 missing in action. And we've suffered no casualties over the last turn. Over here, bombing accuracy is how often your aircraft actually hit what they're aiming at. So this unit has a 51% bombing accuracy rate, which I think is pretty good. All right. Moving on, these are some controls that you can use when you're in manual pilot selection mode. So we can have up to 45 pilots in this unit. We can assign pilots in several different ways. Get new pilot will grab pilots from whatever pool you select here. Okay. Replacements are going to be really low experienced pilots that come right out of training, like right out of pilot school, right? Reserve are going to be pilots that you have manually put into your pilot reserve, and these are typically more experienced pilots that you manually put in here to transfer around. If you click this button, it will randomly grab a pilot from the reserve, and hopefully it will be one that's most fitted to this squadron, but it will grab whatever is available. If you're out of bomber pilots, it's going to grab fighter pilots and put them in there. So I don't like to use this option so much. This Get 13 Pilot button will instantly fill up this squadron with 13 pilots, or however many number is listed here. It will change based on how many pilots are currently in there. And typically this is good if you want to fill a pilot up, a squadron with pilots, random pilots real quick. Like, let's say you just emptied out all of your pilots for to put into the reserve, and you want to add a bunch of recruit pilots to a training squadron. You can do it rapidly with this button. You know what? I don't think we've got music. We need some music. Let's turn the music up. There. Let's get some music going here. And you can change where these are drawn from, of course, by clicking this pool right here. This button here, Request Veteran, is the way I like to assign pilots the most if I want special pilots. So I will set it to reserve. Then I'll click Request Veteran, and this allows you to manually select the pilot of your choosing. So this is a bomber squadron, right? I want to use the reserve pool. What I do is I click this, and then I manually select the pool of bomber pilot types that I want, right? Bomber reserve, you see that? Then by clicking on these buttons up here, you can pick the skill that you want these pilots to have that you want to prioritize for bringing them in. So this is a medium bomber unit. This particular bomber unit can either drop torpedoes or attack ground targets with bombs. So let's say I want to use these Betty bombers as torpedo bombers. I'll click the Enable Torpedo Skill button, right? And looking over these, if you mouse over these, it will tell you exactly what the skills are. So I'm prioritizing Naval Torpedo, right? And you can sort it by least to most. Let's say I want this pilot in my bomber unit, and I want several pilots like that. I can go over here to most skilled, and I click Release Pilot, and it will assign pilots to my unit based on what priority I have set here. Watch how this changes based on the skill that I've selected, right? And it will tell you when it moves them over. And doing it this way allows these pilots to become available for your next turn. So you see how we have the parentheses again? We click on our pilots, scroll by delay, right click, and hit Y for yes. And now we have 33 pilots ready to go. And that's why I like to use the Request Veteran option to manually grab the best pilots for this type of unit that I'm doing. Down here it tells you their major skills. So like this unit excels at land bombing, naval bombing, and torpedoing. Okay? Let's continue going down. The commander, you can select the commander for each of your squadrons, alright? And these different skills over here will determine how good they are in combat. Aggression is the likelihood for them to actually do the mission they're assigned regardless of the risk. You want high aggression if you want these units to go after the target no matter what. Inspiration helps their morale recover, and these skills help determine how good they are at a particular thing. What you really want to be looking at is air. Okay, you want a commander with good air skills. Admin skills help with training. So let's say I don't like this commander. He's got great leadership, right? he's good at leading his unit, but he doesn't have a lot of aggression. I want to change him out. So if I click on the commander, I can sort by the type of skill that I really value. In this case, let's say I want a highly aggressive commander, right? He may not be good at other stuff, but he's good at being aggressive. So you kind of look over the top here, and you got to pick and choose what skills you value in your commander. And this is how many political points it costs to move them. So you got to pay to get rid of the commander you have, and you got to pay to put the commander in. So if I click on, let's say, Tsutsumi, right, it will cost me 15 political points to move this commander into that unit. So if I click that and I click done, it will make the change. If I click exit, it won't. So watch, I click done. Our new commander is Lieutenant Tsutsumi. And now these skills will be given to this unit, right? Good. Let's keep going. This over here is a very important area here that tells you some basic information about the aircraft. So this number here in hexes is the maximum ferry range that the aircraft can be flown to relocate it to another base. It can't do missions that far, but it can relocate. So for example, at a range of 69 hexes, if I click transfer to base, you can kind of go up and down here by range, and this will show you all the bases you can go to. So this thing can get all the way to Port Moresby if I wanted to get there, right? Look at that, 69 hexes. So you can either click here and it will move it, or you can select on map, right? So if I click select on map and I hover over all the different bases, right, it will show me what their ranges and the little infographic there at the bottom, right? So you could look around and look for a base you want to move your ship to or your plane to. In our case, we want to go to Port Moresby, right? It's 69 hexes away, but it will go there. So if we click there, the aircraft now moved to Port Moresby, right? And it moved there because of the maximum range that this aircraft could fly in one turn for relocating. This range extended is going to be the maximum range that the aircraft can conduct missions, but with a reduced load. And how you can determine what the reduced load would be for that is by going to aircraft data, and it will tell you the default load and your reduced load. So flying at extended ranges, this thing will no longer carry its torpedo. It will carry a maximum of 250 kilogram bombs, okay? If you fly at normal hex radius, it will carry up to the full load. So in this case, it can carry up to one full torpedo, and typically it'll be double the bomb load here if it doesn't show the bombs, because this thing will carry torpedoes or bombs based on the type of mission it's flying. The heaviest thing it will carry is this Type 91 torpedo, but it will also carry bombs, and typically it's going to be double this. All right. So if you want to make sure you're lobbying a torpedo for your Bettys, you want to make sure that whatever your target is, or whatever your maximum range here, is set to the normal radius. Anything in excess of that will get you into extended range and reduce your bomb load. This is the max altitude that the aircraft can fly at, so that's going to affect like your altitude here that you can actually fly at. And this is your cruise speed and your maximum speed. And these speeds, I wouldn't worry about it too much in your case, but where they come into play is when like how long it takes them to get to their target, and that will, like, if you're targeting a convoy that's moving, they may miss the intercept. And this is their max speed. Again, more important for fighters, right? Let's continue down here. Since I moved this unit, this stuff is grayed out. You'll see that I moved this unit this turn, so it's out of movement for this turn. So let's find another unit that isn't, so we can talk about more stuff. Okay, I got another Betty unit here. This button, transfer to base, as I previously demonstrated, allows you to transfer this aircraft to another base. You can do it by just selecting the base on this list, or again using the select on map button. Transfer to a docked ship. This is when you want to load, and this doesn't work so much for bombers, but for, like, if you want to load up land-based fighters onto a carrier to transfer it on a carrier, which is a faster way of moving aircraft. I'll show you that a little bit later. Let's press on for now because it's not really applicable to this example. These buttons for disbanding a group and withdrawing a group, let's see if we can find one that we can actually do that with. So when you want to, you could disband an air group if you want, and it will transfer unit. If there's another like unit nearby, it will move those aircraft into that unit and plus that up. And then again, it will ask you when you do this, do you want to reform the group in 120 days? If you click yes, in 120 days, this unit will probably reform, I think, in Tokyo or somewhere in Japan, and you can start adding aircraft and pilots to it. If you hit no, you'll never see it again. Okay? Withdrawal group, typically you'll see this if you have a unit that needs to be withdrawn. And let's see if we can find one that is going to be withdrawing soon. And you can do that by looking at group withdrawal schedule. Here we go. The Yamada debt at Port Moresby needs to be off map in 3 days. And if you don't do it, you start taking a political point penalty for it. So looking at this, you'll see here that this unit must be removed from the map by 7 April 1942. So let's say, okay, I want to get this off the map now before I forget, because I don't want to take a penalty for it still being on map after this date. So what you'll do is you'll click the withdrawal group date. Okay. And in a lot of cases, you'll get a refund in political points for doing it. Not always, but sometimes. So if you click proceed, the pilots are removed. Now, typically, if it pays you political points, you're not getting those pilots and you're not getting those aircraft back. But it's gone, and now we won't take a penalty. See, it's no longer on the map. So that's how you withdraw aircraft if it has a withdrawal date, like this Yamada debt, right? We want to get this thing off the map. Oh, we'll get some payment for it because we're not getting these aircraft or these pilots back because they're going away and they're not coming back. There you go. So that's that button there. This button here, no replacements. So if you put replacements on, this will draw aircraft from your pool and automatically refill your unit with. It'll refill your unit with aircraft when they're available to do so. If you turn this to off, it won't. And there are some requirements for replacing stuff, right? You have to have a size 1 base. You have to have 20K supply at the base. There's different requirements for replacements. And sometimes when a unit is low, this little button will have an option here to add aircraft to it. Let's see if we can find one that's like that. There you go. See, this aircraft unit here has a maximum allowable quantity of 6 aircraft, but we only have 3. And I have 3 in the pool, so if I want to add them to it, there's 2 options. I can do it one at a time, or I can do it with the max fill. See? Now we have a total of 6 aircraft. That option is no longer available to me. And we're filled up. And when you add aircraft from the pool as replacements, they automatically come to you in maintenance mode. Okay? And they'll have to be built up, and it's simulating an aircraft coming in a box, and the ground crew's got to put the wings on, bolt it on. It takes a couple days to get that aircraft FMC to fly. All right? Let's go back to this. Let's go back to this unit here. Let's talk about, and sometimes you'll see where you have replacements delayed. So you can only add replacements to unit every 7 days. And while you wait for that 7 days, it will tell you there's going to be a delay. So 5 days ago, I added replacements to this unit, and I can't add any more until another 2 days have gone by. And then this will eventually go away, and we can add replacements. Okay. Let's talk about upgrades here. So there's 2 different options when you're playing your game for settings as far as how upgrades go. If you go up to here to your preferences, there's either player-defined upgrades on or off. If they're off, the squadron will automatically follow its historical upgrade path. I like to play with player-defined upgrades on, so that I can control how I upgrade my aircraft. So what you do here is you can look at this options here, and this is the historical upgrade path, and over here are the options to upgrade or downgrade your aircraft. So let's say I want to make this unit, which is currently flying the 2A Sally, right? I wanted to convert to something different. For example, I want to turn this squadron into a training unit in Japan, and I don't want flying these Sallies because I want to use these Sallies in the front lines. Okay. So what I can do is I can change the squadron edit or the type of aircraft that it has by selecting it on this list, and you need to make sure you have sufficient quantity and pool to do this. So in this case, let's say we want to change it to an AN, because an AN is an inferior aircraft type. We don't want to use it for frontline service, but it's great for training pilots, right? So I can click on this and click Done. Now you'll see over here that this upgrade path is to the KI-30 AN, which honestly is more of a downgrade in this case, but it allows us to do it. And you'll see this button that says Upgrade Now. It will allow you to upgrade now if you have a sufficient quantity in the pool for the type. So when we click Upgrade Now, and I always click yes here when it asks for retaining the group's original upgrade, because it will actually, well, you can put yes or no. If you put no, it will keep it as an AN. If you hit yes, it will say it will go back to what it wants to go to. So honestly, put no if you want to keep it to what you're assigning it to. See, it just upgraded all of our aircraft, or downgraded in this case. It switched to the AN, right? And again, remember when you add aircraft or change aircraft, they come in under maintenance mode, and they have to be put back together. But you can also upgrade by picking other aircraft type that you want, and it needs to be available here, and it has to have some in the pool. But this is how you manually change the aircraft type. But remember, when you do that, it does affect the pilot skills here. The experience level will go down if you're swapping aircraft. Like, let's say you put a fighter pilot into a bomber. It's a different type of aircraft, and he'll lose experience. So you want to make sure that you're keeping your bomber units with bomber aircraft types and your fighter units with fighters, or you will lose experience and you'll have to gain that back. Okay, so that's how you do upgrades. Let's go through the group missions. We're kind of getting close to the end here. I can't believe it. So these are the different types of missions this particular type of unit can do. All right, if you want to know more about what these are, you can go into the game manual and explain what all these different missions are. I could spend another hour explaining these, so go into manual and read about these missions, or if you have a specific question about a type of mission, let me know. So on a lot of these, you can have multiple types of missions. So airfield attack, that's all it's going to do. But if you set this thing to like naval attack, for example, you have a primary mission and a secondary. So in this case, these KI-30 ANs on naval attack will prioritize naval attack first, but if they don't have any ships to bomb, they will go to the secondary option here. Okay, so and then you can select the target that you want them to bomb. Okay, so option A for this type of mission is they're going to look for naval attack first. They're going to look for enemy ships to bomb first. If they don't find any, then they're going to go to Ben Colin and attack the airfield instead. So again, not all mission types have the ability to do a secondary mission, right? Mostly like naval attack, because again, if they have no ships, they'll go after something else that you decide for them to do. And then also, like when you get down to training, for example, you can select the type of training you want them to do. So in this case, if I want to train my pilots on ground bombing, which is their primary mission, I would set it to ground attack. You can also set it to airfield attack or port attack. Any of these will give you ground bombing skills. But depending on the type of skills you want to train for your pilots, you would select that here. You always want to train to a 100 because there's no good reason not to if the unit is solely intended for training. But again, this is getting more into pilot management, which is another topic. So we could talk about pilot management another time. But these are how you select the missions for your units, right? And again, sometimes you can select a specific target, right? So if I want to do a port attack, I can select exactly which port I want them to attack, right? If you don't do that, the squadron commander will find his own target to attack, and it may not be the one you want. So I strongly advise you, if you're going to order a unit to attack, you give it a target. And again, you do that by selecting it, and you pick the target you want them to attack, right? So or let's say I'm doing a ground attack mission. I want them to attack this unit right here. So now it will fly to that hex and bomb the target there. And it will show you how far away it is. In this case, it's 6 hexes away, which means we're in normal radius, which is a good thing, which means that our bomb load will be the maximum bomb load. If we picked a target that was 8 hexes away or 7 hexes away, we'd be lobbing a much smaller bomb and we get less damage from that. Okay? Down here is how you can set submissions and like alternate missions, or divide up how you want your pilots to be utilized. So let's say in this ground bombing attack, I don't if I don't mess with this, 100% of the pilots and aircraft will be devoted to the group mission that I have it set to. Or let's say this unit's running really high fatigue and I want to leave a few pilots back to rest. I can go over here and put 30. And what that does is it will leave 30% of the planes and pilots back home and let them rest. And the other 70% will continue on with the mission. And you can really get kind of crazy here. Let's say I want to go and I want 30% to train, okay? Then I want 30% more to do a search pattern, right? And I want, I don't know, 10% more to go an anti-submarine mission, ASW patrol. You can set all different submissions here, but this gets a little complicated, right? I'll give you an example of a good thing that I like to do. For naval, let's say this was a naval search squadron, right? I want about 70% of my pilots to be searching and the rest to be resting, so I don't over fatigue the unit. Or let's say I'm training fighter pilots, right? Let's find a fighter unit, for example. Here you go, these Oscars. I want these guys to be training. Let's say this is a training unit, but I also want them to be doing some airfield cap, right? So what I can do here is I go to escort. I put 70% of the squadron to be on combat air patrol, right? And then I want 30% of them to be training. This is just an example. So 70% will be up flying. The other 30% will be back in the classroom training or doing basic skills stuff. All right. And then I can set how far away from the base I want them to go on their missions. And this is, again, I can get into this more if you want to know kind of how this all works here. But basically, if I set it to 0, this unit will fly only in my hex and will not radiate out. It will only like protect this base or train at this base. So that's how you can adjust that. And then the altitude you can set here. And the altitude comes into play for a number of different reasons. For, let's say, for example, for a cap, if you know your enemy's been coming in at high, like at 20,000 feet every turn, and you want to get above them, you can set the altitude that they will fly at. And you also need to keep track of these altitude modifiers here, because the higher you go, based on these altitudes here, your aircraft loses performance, right? So you have to find that happy medium between aircraft performance and maneuverability and all that stuff, and where you want them to fly, and you can do that here. We'll talk about this in a minute. Okay, we're getting close to the end here. I think I already said that, but I mean it this time. Okay, so here you can do a lot of orders assignments in bulk, and here's how this would be handy. Let's say I had 10 Oscar units at this base, right? And I wanted all of them to do the identical mission. I could go through and manually set it up for each plane, and each squadron. It will take forever. Or let's say here, I can order all of my KI-43s at this base to do the identical mission. So I would click that. All right. And it will look for any aircraft type identical to this one and assign it the exact same mission, exact same target, same patrol levels, and same altitude and range. And it's really cool if you have a lot of different units stacked at one base. Or if you want to get even more broad, you click this button and it will assign this same mission over here to any fighter type aircraft. So let's say you have Zeros and you have Oscars, right? I want all the Zeros and all the Oscars to do the exact same mission. If I click this button, they will all be set to this over here. And that's, again, really cool when you want to do stuff in bulk. This button here allows them to do day or night operations. And unfortunately, you can't assign all of them to do this day or night. You have to go to each unit and select day or night missions, okay? And not all missions that they do are available for day or night. See, on night, we have a limited amount of options. On day, there's more, okay? So that's how you change from day to night. Again, we could talk more about that later if you have questions, okay? Okay, we're almost at the bottom. Down here, this shows all the different squadrons that are assigned to this headquarters, right? Or back that too far. So this is attached to the 3rd Air Division headquarters. This shows you all the different squadrons that are assigned to 3rd Air Division, okay? Over here is a unit order of battle. So if a lot of times your units will be split up, okay, and you'll see that the units are not all together. This will tell you where they're all at. So we have the 64th Sentai. The main part of the unit is at Palembang, all right? But there's a detachment at Merak. What if I want to combine them and make them one whole unit again? I'll show you how to do that right now. You can go to Merak, for example, select the subunit here, right? And then watch this. I'm going to transfer them back to Palembang. Now, you see another option just showed up, right? If you look at the order of battle, all of the sub pieces of your divided up unit are now in the same base. So if you click reattach unit, watch what happens. It just combined them into one giant squadron, okay? So that detachment and the main squadron are now one unit together. Pretty cool, huh? But let's say I have this big fighter squadron. It's got 42 aircraft in there. I was like, man, I don't really need 42 here, but I want to put some at Palembang, some at Batavia, some at another base, and kind of split them up. This is how you do it. You click the divide unit, and this will only work if you have a fully combined unit. So if I click divide unit, it'll make 3 more or less equal pieces of a squadron, right? Look. It'll say 64th Sentai A, B, and C. And it will do its best to make them equal unless you have an odd number. So now instead of having one big squadron, I have 3 smaller squadrons, and I can subdivide them out and put them at different bases, right? And let's say a week from now, everything I need to do is complete. There's no enemies left. I want to recombine this squadron just to make this administratively easier to keep a track of. I can, as long as all 3 of these pieces of this divided up unit are back in the same base, I can rebuild the unit. Now look at that. Now we're back to a size 42 squadron. All the A, B, and C sub squadrons are back together. So that's what these buttons do down here. Okay. Now, pilots is all the pilots assigned to the squadron. This is almost like a game in itself. It's like a sub game of this game is pilot management, which I think in hindsight Gary Grigsby went a little off his rocker here, getting this deep in the weeds about managing individual pilots of a squadron. But hey, he gave us this option and it's pretty fun. I feel like this is its own video, pilot management. So we could talk about that in another video, but to look at all the pilots and their skills, you click this button. Aircraft data gives you the data card for the aircraft. It will tell you the cruise speed, the max speed, its ranges, altitude, maneuver, durability, the weapons it has, the altitude modifiers, and the type of engine that it has. For the Allies, this is not that important. For the Japanese, it's critical because you manage your own industry and you have to deal with the aircraft engines that go to this airframe. Again, a whole nother video, but this is your aircraft basically specification card, okay? And lastly, this button planes tells you the status of all the assigned aircraft to the squadron, right? And you can sort it by different options, right? So basically, this shows us that of all the 45 aircraft assigned to this squadron, all 41 of these are ready and can be flown in missions, and we have 4 in reserve. If you have damaged aircraft, and let's see if we can find some. I'm sure I can. Okay. Right here. This unit here, for example. It has a total of 6 aircraft, but not all of them are available. So 3 of them are ready to fly right now. Other 3 are in maintenance, and it's estimating that it will take about 2 days for the ground crew to restore them to full mission capability. And over here, as aircraft become damaged in battle, this number goes up. As these aircraft are flown every day, they get fatigue, and when they get to a certain fatigue level, the aircraft will be put into maintenance mode and they need to be repaired. Okay, and one way you can kind of determine how fast they will fatigue is the service rating, where 1 being the lowest amount of fatigue that you'll get per day, and 4 being high fatigue. And also, the higher the service rating, the more days it takes to repair it. A service rating of 1 means that this aircraft can be fixed up really quick by the ground crew. A service rating of 4, for example, for like a P-38 E model that the Allies have, has a service rating of 4, meaning when the aircraft is damaged or in maintenance mode, it takes forever for it to get repaired. All right, so that's how you can determine how easy an aircraft is to repair and keep in service. Where 1 being the best and 4 or more. I think it only goes to 4. 4 being the worst. Okay. Oh, okay. I've been talking forever, but I hopefully I explained this unit card a bit. If you have any questions about this, if you want to know more about something specific, please ask me. Again, either at my Discord or here on the video comment section. Ask your questions about the aircraft interface, and I'll be happy to answer it for you. Other than that, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this useful. And the next topic I'm going to be covering in the coming days here is going to be on ground unit user interface and what all that means. And then we'll do something else. Okay? Thanks so much.